Welcome learners to today's lesson of geometric patterns. So for today's lesson, let's start with a did you know? Did you know that we have indigenous mathematics? Africans painted their houses using geometric patterns. They also made several cultural artifacts using geometric shapes. Beading and weaving use geometric patterns. And as you can see in those pictures below, those are the designs that are used, and we call that indigenous mathematics. So let's look at the lesson objectives for this lesson. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to investigate and extend geometric patterns, write rules in words to describe relationships between diagrams, represent geometric patterns in tables, work with geometric patterns that have a second constant difference. So let's look at the concept map for this lesson. The first concept that we are going to be looking at is investigation of geometric patterns. That's where we are going to extend geometric patterns. Then we are going to look at representation of geometric patterns, and that is in tables and algebraically. Then we are going to be solving problems where we are going to solve for complex problems involving geometric patterns. For our pre-knowledge for this lesson, you should be able to investigate and extend numeric patterns, describe the number pattern in words, find the general term of numeric patterns, and find the value of any given term in a numeric pattern. Let's look at some practice for our pre-knowledge. So we have there as an example a pattern, and that is a numeric pattern. We have 2, 8, 14, 20, and the pattern continues. But can you tell what is going on in this pattern? So how do we move from the first term to the next term? And as you can see, do you remember how to find the difference between these two terms? So we can see here that between 2 and 8, if I wanted the difference there, I would simply say my second term minus my first term, and that is 8 minus 2, which will give me a 6. I do the same thing for the next numbers, which is going to be my third term minus my second term, and when I say 14 minus 8, that also gives me a 6. And again, my fourth term minus my third term, that is going to be 20 minus 14, and that gives me 6. So as we can see, the difference here between these numbers is 6. And because it is the same number, we call this a constant difference. So how do we find the algebraic pattern or the general term? So remember, we start with Tn. And we are going to take that constant difference, which is my 6, and we are going to multiply it by n. And remember, n is the term number. So you do remember this first one will be my first term, my second term, my third term, and then again my fourth term. So we are working with the term numbers so that we can get that pattern. And when I look at my first term, then I am going to say that is 6 multiplied by 1. And remember, we must find the number that we are going to add or subtract to that product so that we can get the first term, which is our 2. So what are we going to add or subtract? Remember, 6 multiplied by 1 is 6. And then we are going to subtract 4 so that we can get to that first term of 2. And before we can confirm this minus 4 or this subtract by 4, we need to maybe check with another term. So I'm going to use the third term there just to check if I am correct. So I'm going to say that is 6 multiplied by 3 because we are working with the third term. And then if I take 6 multiplied by 3, I need to say minus 4, and that answer needs to give me the value of the third term. So what is 6 multiplied by 3? That is 18. And when I minus 4 from that, that is going to give me 14. And when I look at my pattern, 14 is my third term. So that means that I am absolutely correct in saying that my general term is going to be Tn is equals to 6 multiplied by the term number, and we are going to subtract 4, and that is the general term of that pattern. Let's move on. So the following one, we've been given a pattern there, and that pattern is 1, 4, 9, and 16. The first thing we are supposed to do there is to find the next 3 terms. So what are going to be the next 3 terms of this pattern? Before you can find the next 3 terms, you need to now investigate what exactly is going on in this pattern. So when we look at this pattern, the first one is 1, the first term, the second term is 4, the third term is 9, and the fourth term is 16. Do those numbers look familiar? Well, they should look familiar because they are special numbers. If you are thinking of 25 as the next term, you are absolutely correct. And what number would come after 25? That would be 36. And what is the third one that comes after this pattern, or to continue this pattern? That would be our 49. Now the next question asks, explain how you identified them. How exactly did we identify these numbers? Now remember, this is my first term, the 1. This is my second term, this is my third term, and this is my fourth term. So when I look at that pattern there, I notice that these are square numbers that I am working with. So 1 multiplied by 1 gives me 1 as an answer. When I move on to the second term, that would be 2 multiplied by 2, and that will give me 4. When I say 3 multiplied by 3, that will give me 9. 4 multiplied by 4, that will give me 16. This means if I move on and say what is 5 multiplied by 5, since I'm working with the fifth term, that is going to be 25. What is 6 multiplied by 6? That is going to be 36. What is 7 multiplied by 7? That is going to be 49. And that is how we explain it. This is the square numbers. So we are just going to square the term number, and that is how we get to the next term, or this is how we finish off that pattern. Let's move on to the next pre-knowledge practice. Now we have a pattern that says they're 0, 3, 8, and 15. So we need to find the next 3 terms. So let's look at what is going on here. So between 0 and 3, the difference there, remember we are going to say 3 minus 0, that is 3. Then we are going to say 8 minus 3, that is 5. Then we are going to say 15 minus 8, and that is 7. Now can you tell what the next 3 terms are going to be? So as you can see, we've added 3, then the next one we've added 5, and the next one we've added 7. What are we going to add to get to the next one? Yes, we are going to add 9. And then if we say 15 and we add 9, that gives us the next term of 24. So if that sequence there continues, the next term is going to be 24. Then next we are going to add 11. And if we add 11 to 24, what is that going to give us? If you are thinking of 35, then you are absolutely correct. And then, what is the next term after that? Next, from 35, we are going to add 13. And if I say 35 and I add 13, my answer there is going to be 48. So those are the next 3 terms. So how do we explain how we identified them? So as you can see there, with the numbers that I'm adding, starting from 3, I was adding the odd numbers, or between the numbers that I'm adding, there is a difference of 2. So I am going up by 2 every time. So I added 3, then I added 5, then I added 7, and next I added 9, then 11 and 13, and that pattern would continue indefinitely. So that is how we identified the next 3 terms. Let's quickly go to an ad break, and then we'll see you just now.